Good morning. It's 8:30 in Lewes in East Sussex, which means it's probably 8:30 in a lot of other places in the country and other times in other parts of the world. But welcome to Friday morning, the 5th of May, the day before the coronation. And if you hear music in the background and a bit hustle and bustle, this place is chaos this morning as we prepare to have a little reception at around 10 o'clock for a few of the great and the good and some of our colleagues who work up and down the Lewes High Street. But in the meantime, we're just going to bring you the half-hour roundup of news for front-page newspapers, as we normally do, and let you know what's going on. And I'm Keith Hayes. This is the White Hart Hotel, and we are live to your bedroom or wherever you are still at this hour of the morning. Boo-boo-boo. Okay, now let's take a look at the newspaper headlines, and is because the Mirror starts off with obscene, it says, and sorry, just to I'm going to have to do a balancing act here. To see what it's saying is the Mirror says that energy firms are facing fresh fury. Well. And we got to need to take a look at a couple of pictures of energy. There we are. Stuart Dolby would be in his element here. Is energy firms are facing fresh fury after Shell posted record profits of 7.6 billion in 3 months. About the same as last time, as I recall. The paper brands the profits obscene and says the government's decision not to increase windfall taxes further is to blame. That gives the Mirror the sort of thing that it loves to have on its high horse. Now, a slightly different thing on the gas front, and that is that the Eye says Shell force-fitted 4,000 prepay meters in the UK while making £32 billion profit. It depends on who you believe, but I suppose that total that for the year. Shell also forcibly installed prepayment meters in some 4,145 homes during 2022, according to the Eye, which means those affected are disproportionately on lower incomes and less able to pay in advance. The Eye says the installations came in a year many of the company's customers had to choose whether to heat or eat. Well, there we are. The Guardian. I'm sorry. Let's have a look. Okay. Let's see. Well, I thought I had an artificial intelligence thing here, but I don't. At least I can't see it just offhand. There we are. All right. Now, The Guardian says UK and the US in a challenge to tech firms over the growing power of artificial intelligence. The Guardian leads with the launch on Thursday of a review by the UK's Competition and Markets Authority into the race by tech firms to develop ever more powerful artificial intelligence. It notes that the launch came on the same day that the US government published a statement saying that the firms had a fundamental responsibility to make sure their products are safe before they are deployed or made public. Real concern beginning to rise. And I don't blame them. Most of these companies can't handle computers, let alone artificial intelligence, let alone robots wandering around making things happen. There are some worrying signs on this. I personally have done a little skit a little while ago. I have to dig it out. About the Triffids and how the Triffids, who took over the world in the 1950s, according to not Lucas Parks. It was John Wyndham, the day of the Triffids. The Triffids were half animal, half vegetable, and they were cultivated by mankind until we all went blind, and then they took over. And they've been lurking there, waiting for a weakness in man to come back again and take over a second time. And this is it. The fact that we are racing ahead without any idea of how we're going to control it. We can't look after what we've got, let alone what we're now putting onto the market. Right, the Times. Prisoners to plug labour shortages under plan. Right, okay. This is what we're talking about here. Thousands more prisoners could be let out on day release to fill labour shortages under plans intended to reduce reoffending and boost the economy. The Times... these little things crop up. The Times reports that after the budget in March, which identified labour shortages as a key impediment to growth, the paper says that only a quarter of those leaving prisons have a job within 6 months, and that inmates will be encouraged to take up apprenticeships in areas including construction, haulage, and hospitality. The Daily Express, a huge burden. The king is relaxed. Wow, well, have we got a relaxed king? He's taking stick for it, of course. With some people, the king can do no right, even though with God, with the divine right of kings, he can do no wrong. The Express carries comments from the Dean of Westminster, the Very Reverend David Hoyle, who has said that the king remains relaxed despite the huge burden of the coronation. Whilst there's a lot for him to do, he doesn't give the sense of a man who's really anxious, the Dean said. Ah, well, there you are. Happy old Charles. Happy old Charles. The Daily Telegraph is Lord Lloyd Webber has composed an anthem. Hang on. A coronation anthem is made for churches. The king wanted a composition to be hummable and stand the test of time, says Lloyd Webber. So he's composed an anthem to be played during the coronation ceremony. And where are we with coronation? Right. There we go. The coronation ceremony. Sorry, a bit tongue-in-cheek from us there. The Daily Telegraph that the king asked him to write something that would be hummable and stand the test of time. He wants the anthem sung in churches, Lloyd Webber says. The piece will also be released as a single to raise money for the Royal British Legion and Aged UK. The Metro, they've done a funny thing, really. It's a visit by the Prince and Princess of Wales to Soho's Dog and Duck pub leads the Metro. The paper says the Prince pulled a rather foamy pint of ale and hinted at more boozy celebrations to come. I love a cocktail, he quotes him as saying, but best not do it before the coronation. Right. And the Sun is similarly, Wills and Kate toast the king in a pub. The Sun carries a picture of the Prince and Princess with a pint each and says the visit came the same day it was revealed that 400,000 frontline workers, including from the emergency services, armed forces, and royal staff, would receive a thank you medal from the king to mark the coronation. And I suppose, well, we say, let's hide it. Let's take a look at me. That'll stir your morning. It's the Star, which normally gets us going with the good old giggle, is one day to go to the Chaz coronation. The king has just one more sleep before his coronation, according to the Daily Star. The paper says that if he proves half as good at his job as Sam Allardyce, the veteran football manager recently appointed to head up Leeds United, then he'll be a lucky man. Oh, well, there we go. The Star didn't go too far off peach today. And finally, the Daily Mail. No, it's not final. We've got the FT to come yet. The Daily Mail is China's coronation insult to Britain. Well, they they're getting a bit excited about the Chinese envoy who has been responsible for crackdowns in his own country. And what the Mail is saying is, if you're going to send this guy to represent you at the coronation, then shouldn't we be so saying, go on, get lost? And the Mail leads on a furious row about a decision by the Chinese government to send Vice President Han Zheng to the coronation in place of President Xi Jinping. The paper says Mr. Han has overseen Beijing's recent crackdown on political freedoms in Hong Kong and quotes Lord Patten, the last British governor of the territory, saying the move shows China doesn't give two hoots about the UK. Well, that makes it maybe, but I think we're mixing two things here. You get an invitation and it gives you the option of sending somebody in your place. Then who's to argue with who you send? And frankly, although I understand China is a powerful new, it is in many ways powerful new force in the world, is we really can't go around saying this is what you do and what you can't do. We just have to put up with it, grin and bear it. That's is China's coronation insult to Britain, says the Mail. And while I personally like the Mail as a newspaper, I think it's got it wrong on this one. Financial Times, the ECB, that's the European Central Bank, slows a rate rise campaign, but warns fight against inflation is not over. The FT reports on the decision by the European Central Bank to raise interest rates by 0.25% to 3.25%. The paper says the president of the bank, Christine Lagarde, has signaled the rate rise will not be the last such move this year, though she adds that with price pressures down from their peak and a credit crunch looming, many economists think the rate tightening cycle is nearing its end. Ooh, well. Now, what do we got? Let's take the Chinese away. They might think that we're talking about them. Let's see. Locally, there's an explosion on a Sussex, dangerous Sussex beach. These things keep on twisting and turning. Close to the public leaves a huge crater in the sand. An explosion on the dangerous Medmerry beach in West Sussex has left a huge crater in the sand after a highly explosive item was found on the closed beach on Tuesday. That is the main story, but nobody was hurt. I guess they just found it, and ex-manager at Sussex Children's Holiday Camp groomed more than 70 boys. Oh dear, paedophile case, and he did it online. And a man was arrested in Sussex on suspicion of grooming more than 70 teenage boys online, and he's pleaded guilty this week. Cameron Osman, age 44, from Southampton, was a former children's holiday camp manager in Hailsham at the time of the offences and had resigned a few days before his first arrest in Crowborough in September 2021. What else have we got? Not much, I'm afraid. What, of course, we are looking at this morning is the results of the election yesterday. And so far, I haven't seen any come through, although I'm sure that the early count, there must be some, and undoubtedly they're floating around. We just don't have them here. It's going to be an interesting day. There are three, I suppose, four main contenders. There's the Liberal Democrats, there's the Conservatives, there's the Greens, and there is Labour. I personally, but also this station has taken the view that party politics has no part to play in governance at small town level and small county level, if you like, or district level. The town of Lewis it may have gone up a little bit, but it's approximately 17,000 in population. That is small potatoes, but it has got at least its governance still in the centre of the town. Lewis district hasn't got its governance anywhere near. It's in Eastbourne. It is about 100,000 people in the area that's designated a district and comes under its administrative focus. It should not bear any resemblance to party politics, because the fact of the matter is that those who belong to a party or represent a party look after the party first and their constituents second. And it should be the other way around. They look after their constituents first, the party second. At the moment that a councillor acts in any independent way, as his party is down on him like a ton of bricks. And actually, one of the great joys of party politics is to make you howl with laughter, is to go to a local district council meeting and watch when they put up a proposal, and they say those in favour, and all the hands go up as if they've tied with a string. Hands down. Who's in favour? Who's against? And none of them are thinking for themselves. They're all just following whatever the party line is. Well, that's not good enough. It is simply not good enough, and that's got to reform. And it'll be interesting to see who forms the government here. I have no confidence in any of them as parties. There are some individual people. I would love to see somebody break ranks and say, okay, now we're in. What we're going to do is we're going to form a non-partisan association and form a rump to keep the other parties honest, because they need keeping honest already. Well, not already, but going into this election, there is a scandal surrounding the Green Party already. And we're only hours into a new regime, and it's just it's not on that should happen. But the other thing is that some of the parties. No, I don't know about some of the parties. One of the parties, and once again it was the Greens, who seemed to be feeling their oats. It was a downright. They didn't just tell the truth. They put up their candidates and said, elect an experienced team. With 2 out of 3 candidates in this particular riding, anyway, who had never been in governance before. Experience? Huh. No, sir. Now, this television station's role is as a watchdog. So any of the political parties or any of the politicians want to complain that we're too critical, is we are not critical enough, because there's nobody any longer watching you. Even your own scrutiny committee is a giggle. And if that carries on, what will happen is that rule of law will ultimately cease. And the moment that rule of law ceases, then we get anarchy. And what a shame it would be if it was something like Lewis District Council that led the charge towards anarchy as opposed to democracy. But the way that some of these politicians, these political parties, treat the whole thing it's a disgrace. But more than a disgrace, it frightens the hell out of me that the whole idea of being accountable to the public, of being accountable to the electorate, is going out of the window, and nobody cares. Nobody gives a fig. And when that happens, that is the slippery slope to having a democracy that isn't a democracy, that is anarchy, is the loss of rule of law. And it only takes a little bit. I spent some considerable time in Romania after the Ceausescu years. And it was as corrupt as it was during the Ceausescu years. It's just that you had a whole different bunch of beneficiaries. It's just a fight for power. And the country was in dreadful turmoil. It entered the EU and immediately flouted the rules. Immediately flouted the rules. Now, if that's going to happen here, then somebody needs to come down with a heavy hand. And if that's us, we don't care. You can hate us all you want. We don't care. You can despise us all we want. But we have a role to play, and that is keeping an eye on local politics and local governance to make sure it's not getting carried away and feathering its own nest and leaving the rest of us to wallow in all the things that are going wrong. Cost of living, inflation, green, transport, you name it. You name it. There is something wrong with all of it, and it needs fixing. Now, by the terms of the Constitution, is some of the things a district council or a town council simply cannot fix. It is not their remit. But they can influence, and they should be influencing, and they should be influencing on behalf of their constituents, not instead of or because of. So that's where we stand with local news at the moment. The coronation is going to take over our thing. We will not be back this morning at 10 o'clock. We may be back with some images of a reception that Mirador Television is holding. We have invited a fair selection of people from the public sector, from the private sector, from the high street, and from those people who have just been good friends and supporters of Mirador Television. And they're going to receive a glass or two of punch. We've got two groups singing. We've got a piper, and we've got a king to make a proclamation. And it's all happening here. All happening here at the White Hart Hotel in Lewes. If you're wandering by, take a look in. Take a look in through the front door, because you should see some whoopie-doo. And if you don't see some whoopie-doo, you'll see me lying on the floor, a bottle over my head, trying to fight my Parkinson's in the only way I know how. So it is fun day with us. We're not ignoring what's going on. We're not ignoring what our role should be. What we are doing is making sure that we mark the ascension of the King Charles III, legally to his throne. I've been listening to all sorts of arguments about royalty and so on and so forth. Most people are skin deep. What they do is they react to their think it through. There are 9 constitutional monarchies in Europe. Some part of the EU and some not. The constitutional monarchy is not affected by whether you're a member of the EU or not. So put that out of your mind. There are 9 constitutional monarchies. I just mentioned a couple of these: Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Of the 9, there is not one that has an unstable political situation. Oh, feisty. Get excited, wave the arms, yell and stamp defeat, that's all part of politics. But in terms of real threats to revolution or insurrection, not one of them has that sort of threat, and that includes the United Kingdom. So before you start to mouth off about where we stand politically, what we should be doing politically, just remember, we've got the basics right. If you want a republic, I would suggest that you go and find a republic that suits you. Because these islands will not become a republic, or at least over my dead body, and that the rule of law will be a constitutional monarchy, and that we must all back. That doesn't mean to say that you can fall in love with Charles overnight if you didn't like him. It's the system that is so successful. And if we break that up because of silly nonsense, politics of envy, squirming of he shouldn't have that and we should have this, you're doing nobody any good service, including yourself. Oh, there we are, Keith. You've had your little rant. Now you can go off and you can see how the party is coming. It is 8:57. If I can just take a quick look. I should be able to take a quick look, I think. Because you'll want to know what the weather is like out there. And the weather for today is 16 degrees, warm enough, 7-degree minimum. It is now 12 degrees out there. 12 degrees at 8:58. So it is going to be a warm day. There'll be light rain showers, so don't go without a Mac, and a gentle breeze. Clamp your hat on. Tomorrow, unfortunately, the big day is going to be rain and only 14 degrees, although the low will only be 11, so it's a narrow range. And then Sunday, we brighten up again, and we can start to enjoy the long weekend, except the long weekend is Monday the 8th. Where are we again? Quite warm, 15 degrees, but I'm afraid rain. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. It's Friday, the 5th of May, the day before the coronation, the day in which Mirador will have its own little celebration to try and show that we should have a light mood, a buoyant mood, a mood of hope. That's where we stand. Mind you, we're going to be helped along by a little bit of pop. Ooh, yes. It's 8:59. We will see you again next Tuesday. No, we won't. We are going to try and broadcast some of our reception live. And if we can't do that, we shall videotape it and show it as a special program later, either today or on the weekend. So, no, it's totally not all lost. So, till later on, toodle, 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 pip. And here we go.